So I'm literally like in the middle of editing this video, but I wanted to redo it because there's a lot of stuff that I didn't say in the first take that I felt got taken up by like extra out of video stuff. So my thoughts on Gatchaman Crowds Insight. The first thing I want to bring up is that this is by far the better of the two seasons, but the first season, in my opinion, was a lot more enjoyable. And I think that's because the first season was a lot more rule of cool than the second one was. The second season, Insight, is a lot more of a social commentary than anything. That's what most of the show is based upon, or that's what most of the show is. The only episode that didn't really follow that was the last episode, and I felt that that was pretty passable, honestly. Not the episode itself, but the fact that, like, they did not go further into theme exploration. I thought that that was completely fine because we had the main issue solved. We established stuff. They talked about society. They were... wow. I think overall this season was a lot better. I gave this season a 7. I gave the original Gatchaman Crowds, I think, either a 5 or a 6. But yeah, I thought that this season was a lot better than the original. In terms of like fighting and stuff, there wasn't a lot of fighting in Insight, but I don't think, once again, I don't think that's an issue because that wasn't the main focus of the series. The main focus of Insight was just to be kind of like a social commentary. I thought that it was more interesting in this approach than it was when they were just being kind of cool in the first season, you know, compared to this. I also felt that, like, as weird as the setting is, you know, that they're not scared about stuff, I also felt as if the setting was more involved, you know? Like, everybody in the series, or everybody in the, like, city actually felt like a person. You know, they were, some of them were really retarded, but, you know, the whole 262 thing, but, like, I felt as if, like, the setting itself just felt, like, more important towards, like, the nature of the series. Like, in the first series, or, like, the first season, I felt as if, like, everybody should be, like, scared out of their minds. But this season, you kind of understand why they're not, and I felt as if, like, the fact that, like, the citizens started getting along with Gatchaman and how everything started planning out, I thought that that made everything work a lot better. Specifically, I wouldn't technically call it world building, but I thought that the world worked a lot better with the characters in the story. Let's talk about Tsubasa just for a really quick second. Tsubasa fucking sucks. Tsubasa is such... oh my gosh, why is she even in the show? They could have legit have done pretty much the entirety of the show, but without Tsubasa, and it would have been the exact same thing for the most part. Tsubasa, I felt, was just, like, there to reinforce this, like, symbol of, like, the typical, like, stupid person in society to an extent. The person that will always follow the leader no matter what, and then when they realize they fucked up, they'll try to go back and fix everything. But the thing is, Tsubasa, with the exception of how mad she gets and that she has Gatchaman powers, is the exact same as everybody in the rest of the city, which is my problem with her entire character. Like, she has no defining trait. I wouldn't even technically say, like, she's 1D or anything. She's really just kind of like a background character. Like, she could have been one of the background characters in the city, and it would have made no difference to the story. She's a waste of potential, and she's a waste of space. So that's one thing I just wanted to get out there. Tsubasa should have never have come into this show. Let's talk about Gatchaman. Now, Gatchaman was pretty interesting, honestly. I don't think that he's a great character, but I do thought, what the hell? I do think that the way that they kind of, I wouldn't technically, yeah, it is characterization, but it's not, that's not what I'm really trying to get at. But what I'm trying to say is kind of like, I liked how they showed and handled everything with Gatchaman. They wasn't necessarily the characterization that really made me like him. It wasn't the fact that he was nice and he always wanted peace and stuff. I think it was the fact that, let me try to think of a way to explain this. It was the way in which they kind of contrasted his, like, moral, or his, like, world peace scenario. You know, it's kind of like the series was constantly like, while he was trying to evolve to create world peace, kind of showing you, well, if world peace happens, then we'll all be apes. We're not going to be able to think for ourselves. I thought that that's where, like, part of the interesting part of Insight also came from. I thought that part of it came from the fact that we have all of these contrasting, like, ideals, you know? Like, you have the belief, like, you have the 262 belief, you have the belief that everybody will eventually learn to think for themselves. You have the belief that nobody will think for themselves if we all become peaceful. I mean, like, I thought that, like, the contrasting of, like, all these different ideals was a lot more interesting to watch than the first season was. But the first season was, in my opinion, more enjoyable, and that's just because of how kind of stupid, kind of crazy it was. Not saying it was better though. Budget was a lot better this season, but I do have to say that's because there weren't as many fight scenes as there were in the first season, so I guess I could kind of compliment the budget, but that's just kind of because there wasn't much for them to like, or there wasn't anything intense that they really needed to animate this time around. Final episode is something that I really want to talk about, and that's just because the way that they did the voice acting. Hajime's voice actor, I don't know who the hell is voice acting for her, but they need to be paid more. They did a fantastic job when voice acting her. Like, I genuinely felt kind of scared. It was that well done. Overall, I think that last episode was the only problem that I really had was that the ending kind of felt a little inconclusive, and the fact that she just kind of, Hajime just kind of got up and there was no conclusion with her. It was just like, yeah, she's not dead. I kind of wish like we got more closure than she's not dead. I wanted to see more of the world, how it came back to normal, you know, kind of the orange-haired guy, the old leader of Vape. Speaking of which, how the heck did he get out of jail? That's something else, but like, somebody's got to re-explain that to me, because I guess I wasn't paying attention. But I felt as if, like, it needed more closure to the finale. Like, yes, everything ended, but I didn't feel as if, like, everything ended and we got to see, you know, what happened after everything ended. Kind of like, you know, like, we needed something kind of like how Brotherhood, you know, ends the story, and then the next episode they show what everybody's like after all of the events. I think the first season did that pretty well, actually, but this season just kind of, man, they just kind of skipped out on it. Good OST, I don't need to really get into that very much. We all know that. Gatchaman! It wasn't as catchy this season though. Like, they didn't use a lot of like these really funky songs this season like they did. That's what I was saying. Like, the first season a lot more enjoyable, but this season's better in terms of just writing and everything. So I thought that like the OST was a lot more somber this time around. It was a lot less funky, and I don't think that's a bad thing. That's just kind of like, it feels like a downgrade in my opinion. Now, whether it is or not is for you to decide. I don't really think that sound can really be graded too objectively. Like, taste in music is not something that, you know, you base off of facts. You just kind of like it or you don't, and it's not as if I didn't like the OST. It was just that it just wasn't as fun. I think the first half of the series was a lot of really great setup. That's one thing that I do also want to build up, or I want to bring up. Like, the first 4 or 5 episodes, that was really good setup, and you won't really, I never really felt like it was until we actually got to around these last 2 episodes. And that was mainly because, like, when the first 5-6 episodes were going on, you're just kind of like, this is really random. This terrorist attack kind of makes no sense. And it's like, I still think that the way that the guy went about, like, trying to warn, you know, Rui was a little pretty, you know, it was pretty stupid. It was kind of roundabout-ish, but overall, I thought that, like, the setup worked really well. But that's my thoughts on Insight. I probably left out some things that I'll remember after recording, but this time I feel as if, like, I got my thoughts across more. Like, the last time, I think I spent 2 minutes, like, talking about how I have a life or something. I don't talk about. We all know how arrogant I am, so just back up. I have a life. But yeah, tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Whoever told me, I forgot what your name was on here, my bad, but whoever told me to give my final thoughts on this, thanks for the reminder, because I was gonna do like a final episode review, but I think it was better that you just said just do a final thoughts. This is a better idea. Anyways, yeah, tell me what you guys think below. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. One of these days, I just know Snob is going to watch one of these videos and he's going to pick me apart. This might be the one. I'm kind of feeling it. I'm really feeling it. Deuces.